Welcome to the Scariest Things podcast, your gateway to the trends and tropes of the horror genre. This is episode 74, Back to School.
It is back to school because Eric left his homework.
Yeah, my dog ate it.
Yeah, your dog ate your homework.
So Eric is going to be on more improvised tactics here than normal. But as by way of introduction, this is Eric Lee.
Mike Campbell.
And Liz Williams.
And thank you, Liz, for staying up late in Central Time because we know it's
but it's not a school night, so that's okay.
That's right.
It's not a school night. At least it's not Eastern Time.
She's got a long drive in front of her tomorrow.
Yes, not a school night though.
So this is a podcast that is a shout out and a request from one of our patrons, Bree Falk, who is a school counselor. And so she was like, "Oh, do back to school." So
why is Bree not here?
I think Bree is a little gun shy to do the old talkathon that we do.
I think the horrors of school counseling, it would far outweigh all 9 of our films. Easy.
Yeah,
probably. Except a lot of the characters in my choices definitely need counseling.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I tried to go back and find some elementary school type horror movies.
Elementary school?
Because I wanted to kind of do a progression, do elementary, high school, and college.
Oh, interesting.
But
that was not the assignment, though.
No, but that was the way I was going to do it.
Okay.
And since my dog ate my notes,
yes.
I'm shifting gears. But there's
I can think of one.
I can think. Yeah, I think Cooties was
That's what I was thinking.
was the one that is clear and obvious, and it was okay.
Prom night. Prom night starts in an elementary school.
Yeah, but it's not about actually the process of school, of elementary school being the
not
horror.
At all. No,
I think this
is straight up prom night.
I believe a lot of this is know your audience, right?
How so?
That this is the gateway horror for a lot of people is in their high school years.
Oh yeah,
years.
Yeah,
for
sure.
This is all of a sudden you're wanting to get out and explore and see some of the ultra violence and some of the super sexy and starting using a little bit of the potty language.
Yep.
And
maybe a doobie or two.
So yeah, this is but one of the best ways to get kids into into these movies is to make it relevant to them.
Right. But I think
and also
yes, Liz.
Another easy setup for a lot of these things that take place in school is all of mine, unless I have to resort to my backup if we had crossover, take place in boarding schools. So that's a real easy way to get rid of parents.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
really?
if you get kids on their own, mayhem ensues. So, you got to set it up that way. Or, hey, you can't use your phone in class. So there goes phones for ones that are set.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Cellular phones came on. You've got to set up a way to get your audience to suspend the disbelief that there are no adults, or call the police on your cell phone, dummy. Don't just keep running away. They don't have their phone.
Right.
So things like that.
I went with all public schools.
I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure mine were public schools. They don't really talk about it much.
Yeah.
I think by the size of the schools and the type of idiots that they had in the schools, I'm guessing here public.
But here is the thing. This was the thing I discovered, and this is going to sound a little vapid, but as I was watching all these films, I realized that the terror doesn't come from, the killer or the telekinesis or the supernatural. The terror comes from the awkwardness of being a teen or being in school, trying to assimilate, trying to deal with others, trying to deal with bullies. And then the horror is compounded by the telekinesis, the supernatural, the serial killer, etc. Again, I know that sounds pretty vapid, but it was really interesting.
No, high school sucks.
Yeah. High school sucks, junior high sucks. Yeah. And all of these things are made infinitesimally worse by the fact that you are a zit-faced stoner, loser, beauty queen, or jock.
Yeah, the tropes come out, and as much as they carry through in a John Hughes movie, the same rules apply.
Oh, 100%.
You condense it down to easy to recognize types,
Right.
archetypal kids.
Right.
And it's usually the kid who gets bullied. And that actually, this carries through to even some of the collegiate stuff that I dipped into. So,
But wait,
bullying
where were you
is a
going
big
with
thing.
that? You said the kid that gets bullied.
The kid that gets bullied is usually the protagonist.
Oh.
And sometimes or the protagonist
If it's
/
Carrie,
killer
Eric.
comeback. Hey now. So
I think Eric's got a surprise for us tonight.
we'll see.
I hope so. We'll see.
Yeah, this is and longtime listeners will know
Did you?
that the high water mark for high school horror movies, Carrie, is something that I had not seen.
That's right. That's right.
And
How far back did you go? Without disclosing what your film was, did you go way back in time, like into the 40s and 50s?
I investigated a 1961 horror movie.
Okay.
I'm not using it.
Okay.
I didn't. I think there were more interesting ones, but the whole thing of bodily change is
Yeah.
and I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything
Sure.
that you might have.
Yeah.
But some movies like I Was a Teenage Werewolf.
Sure.
I Was a Teenage Frankenstein.
Right.
Those kinds of movies in the 60s tapped into the youth culture that started going in to see the horror movies. And also the transfiguration of puberty and peer pressure and all that kind of stuff of I hate my body.
Right.
That is another theme that kicks into
for
into
sure.
the back to school stuff. I just find it interesting that you don't get a lot of the junior high or elementary school things because those kids aren't ready for these kinds of movies, and then you have to. I think a lot of the stuff that comes out like Cooties is more of a reflection of, oh yeah, I kind of remember when I was a kid, and it was
Right.
or that you take it from the teacher's perspective. So
I would like to see a junior high or grade school, elementary school horror film.
We're getting one.
I think it would be really cool. What's that?
Little Monsters with
Oh,
Lupita Nyong'o
yeah,
is
that's
coming
right.
out, and
That's
that looks like
right.
it's going to be a lot of fun.
That could be very fun.
Yeah,
that could be very, very fun.
But I think it would be hard to do a hard R, grim elementary school movie where something is just grinding up the kids, right? I think that
Right.
Killing one kid is usually a taboo. Killing a whole school full of kids and showing it,
It is
Especially in the state of the world right now.
yes,
It happened in Spanish film 1976. Who can kill a child?
Oh yeah, you talked about that was a lot. That's a
that was
throwback.
a long time ago. The farthest I went back, and this was also a film I didn't use, was 1975, and I looked at a little film with a certain gentleman named Robert Carradine from Revenge of the Nerds. In an earlier role, he was in Massacre at Central High, and for those of you that follow us on Instagram, you saw the post that I posted of a VHS cassette that I had to put a $150 deposit down on to rent for Movie Madness because this movie
Wow.
does not exist anywhere.
So it's not a great recommendation for our listening audience. So
It's very, very niche. Very, very, very
you can
niche.
imagine this movie.
But this is what I will say about the movie. And if you do a little Googling and look into Massacre at Central High, you will quickly realize that Heathers from 1989 was a
Yeah, probably.
big, fat, massive ripoff.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, Massacre. It's a straight up ripoff of Massacre at Central High.
Heather's is so good, though.
It is, which is why
Loved it.
I was kind of surprised. It's like just like Alien is a ripoff of Green Slime.
Yeah, who'd have thought?
True story.
Well,
Interesting.
and The Terror from Beyond Space also influenced.
Yes, that's true.
Alien. I mean, it's an archetypal monster in space movie, and I think high school horror is. I mean, you've got all those prom night movies. You've got you've got.
I think there was 4 prom nights, and not including the remake.
Right. There's and it's got one of the best sequel names ever. In Prom Night 2.
Hello, Mary Lou.
Prom Night 2.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. You can read a review of Prom Night 2. Hello, Mary Lou on thescariestthings.com.
But that
1T.
I think that there is a lot of rinse and repeat prom night-ish things, and we'll probably touch base on a couple of these, is my guess.
Yes, we will.
So Liz,
Yes,
did
we will.
you, when you were in high school, did you associate much with horror movies like that you would want that you could embrace that were, spoke
Set
to you?
in schools?
Yeah.
Not that I can remember. I went to a co-ed school until 10th grade. It was my last year at a co-ed school. And then I went to an all-girls school. So,
Horror.
a little bit of it wasn't a boarding school, obviously, but once you go to a private school or something that's separated, New Orleans school system is a little bit different than the rest of the world. Most people go to private schools because I think we're 49th in education down here for our public schools. So a lot of people, and I'm not going to say most people, a lot of people who I grew up with were either at private schools or Catholic schools. Catholic schools are the norm here. So probably felt more like a John Hughes movie than a horror movie, even though there were absolutely horrific elements.
All right.
To both of all my schools.
But did you ever experience in an all-girls school A, telekinesis, B, serial killers, C...
You ever get stuffed in a locker?
No.
None of that.
Luckily for me, no.
Okay. All right. I thought that was just endemic to all girls schools.
Okay. Well, why don't we? I think let's lead in with Liz.
Yes.
Give us your number 3.
Good segue.
Okay, then I'm kicking it off at an all-girls school.
There you go.
I knew
horror
it.
movie here. It is a 2015, and I'm also starting at the darkest of the ones I picked, and I will lighten up as we go to number 1. So this is a 2015 movie directed by Osgood Perkins, who is the son of Anthony Perkins from Psycho.
I know what this is.
I
and
do
it
too.
is called The Black Coat's Daughter.
Dark.
It is available to stream on Netflix. When it was released in the UK, it was called February. I don't know why they changed the name to The Black Coat's Daughter, except that it starts out kind of with like almost like a shanty song or about the Black Coat's daughter. But it takes place in February when students from this school are being picked up by their parents to go home for like a week-long winter break. And 2 girls, Kat, played by Kiernan Shipka, who played Sally Draper on Mad Men, and more recently is playing Sabrina on Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and Rose, played by Lucy Boynton, are not picked up, so they have to stay and wait for their parents with these 2 like older women who work at the school who are rumored to be witches. The students, I'm sure, see these like kind of frumpy old ladies, and they're like, they're witches. They're creepy. They worship the devil.
But they were nuns, right?
Yeah, because Mike, you reviewed this one, didn't you?
They were nuns.
I thought they were.
Well, if they were, they never wore habits. So maybe they were.
Yeah.
There was a priest who was like in the charge of their school, so they could have been nuns.
Undercover nuns.
Yeah.
Undercover nuns.
Undercover nuns. They were undercover nuns. Maybe during winter break, they don't have to.
That's right. They can just
finery.
let their hair down, man. It's cool.
Yep.
It's cool.
So, Rose is a like senior at the school, and Kat is a new freshman. So Rose has been kind of tasked with looking after Kat. Well, Kat is a little bit weird. She kind of lurks in the shadows. She seems super young. Like she's really weirded out that her parents aren't there. But it is kind of strange. Like she had it marked on her calendar. Like, where are they? So it takes place in like upstate New York. So it's really snowy and really cold. So while that's going on and the girls are at the school, Emma Roberts plays a character named Joan who has just left a mental institution and is at a bus station when she is picked up by a couple who are driving somewhere and say they want to help her out because she reminds them of their daughter. And it turns out they're driving to the town where this school is, Brantford. Mayhem ensues here. This is crazy. Kiernan Shipka, I think becomes possessed because she is not well, and it does not end well for Rose or the ladies who are at the school. And it's kind of an alternate timeline with Emma Roberts playing Joan. It is super dark, super slow, super bloody, and one of those movies where I actually had to like read up a little bit after I saw it to be like, did I really just get that ending and kind of dig in a little bit more?
Yeah, I haven't seen this one yet, but I know it hit a lot of critics' favorite lists from last year. Or, that it got, and I think maybe that's the Tony Perkins.
So probably
effect.
2016. It probably came out on Netflix.
Yeah,
yeah. So, 2015 was the release. Yeah, it's
a couple years ago. Then
it was a real puzzler. It played with like time, space, roles, and it really kind of played with the fundamental tenets of horror as well. I was confused as hell because all the girls looked awful similar, and the lighting that he used, I was confused throughout the whole film who was who and what period of time you were actually looking at. And I, like you, I had to go back and read some stuff about it. I think that probably the craziest scene in the film is when Kat stabs the chaperones to death.
Yeah,
and then decapitates the other girl as she's walking down the hall holding the head, and she utters a very creepy "Hail Satan."
Yes. It's kind of like queuing her up though for her later role as Sabrina. So it's like the starting point. But so I rewatched this film like 2 nights ago, prepping for this, and it wasn't like now that I knew it and read about it, I was like, oh yeah. I mean, you see it a little bit more, but it's not a straightforward film. But it's really good, super atmospheric, very creepy. And really, really dark. This is not a feel-good movie.
Oh God,
but
no!
Yeah,
that's how we're kicking off back to school.
Over here, the saint.
Yep.
The other thing I felt like too when I watched it, I was the same way. The atmospherics, the mood, the lighting, the acting was all wonderful, but I felt like there was a story being told that he wasn't, like it was being done so artistically, he wasn't quite letting you in on the story. And I kept thinking, when do I get to be part of this? Like, when are you letting me in on the deal?
You're not. You're isolated from the story, just like they're isolated in this like
snowy. Yeah. So it's
grim.
Cool.
I would recommend it. I think I gave it 2.5 out of 5, just because for me it was such a puzzler. But it's a good film.
Yeah,
Good,
I'd probably give it
would you say?
a 3,
What's that?
3.5.
Okay.
Would you say
I don't know. I like it dark.
Yeah. So Liz, would you say that the craft of it exceeds the enjoyability of it?
I would.
But I don't know if that's really craft. If you're trying to do something, but all the audience is puzzled by what you're doing,
Eric
has to go to the internet and read something to figure out the ending.
He didn't say crap.
So
he didn't say crap. He said craft.
Crap.
Yes, Black Coat's Daughter, 2015.
Mike.
Yep.
I'm going to go in kind of the other direction.
Okay.
This is the 1983 American slasher film written and directed by Mark Rosman that had several working titles, including a couple that I liked. Screamer, which is not a bad title, and it's never been used before, and Seven Sisters, which is also not a bad title.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's not. Yeah,
but they landed on House on Sorority Row.
So you're going to college.
Going to college. This was partly inspired by the 1955 French film, which is also kind of a back-to-school film, Les Diaboliques. And it was basically features 7 sorority sisters, Katie, Vicky, Liz, Jeannie, Diane, Morgan, and Stevie, who are celebrating their graduation ceremony at the sorority house. And they are dealing with a super evil sort of Nurse Ratchet-esque house mother who is just a pill to deal with. And the girls had basically hatched this plan to stay after after school had let out, after the school year had closed, and they were going to hang out at the house and basically just party for a couple of weeks. And of course, the house mother is having none of this. Eventually, the girls devise a plank. They steal the house mother's walking cane. And then they force her at gunpoint to retrieve it. Of course, the prank goes awry when one of the sorority gals, Vicky,
it's all fun and games,
realizes that it wasn't blanks in the gun, and she shoots and kills the house mother. Shortly thereafter, the entire crew, one by one, Katie, Vicky, Liz, Jeannie, Diane, Morgan, and Stevie, do
that again.
Katie, Vicky, Liz, Jeannie, Diane, Morgan, and Stevie are all eventually tracked down and killed by a mysterious killer.
I got one guess.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. Actually, no. You would not guess this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It kind of gets a little twisty turny at the end. At the very front of the film, there is a scene involving the house mother as a younger woman who's giving birth to a child. And you can guess who the serial killer now is. It's the mutated child that she gave birth to once upon a time. But it's a super solid film. Complex Magazine gave it, they ranked it the 21st best. 21st is good. Best slasher film of all time. That's solid.
Yeah.
21? I mean, there have been thousands of slasher movies. To come in at 21, that's pretty solid.
Okay.
That's pretty solid.
Would you rank it in the upper echelon of slasher films?
Well, I would put it at 21. I think 21 is pretty fair.
But this one is school themed, so therefore it can slot into our discussion.
It's a good school themed film, and it really hits if you are looking for a 1982 vibe.
Mm-hmm.
This hits it like right on the money. The bands that they do, the references to cocaine, the drinking, the partying, the young gals, it all resonates as 1982. So if that's what you're looking for, which I was when I was looking for back to school films, this hit it right on the money. The film eventually, I think it went on to gross about $10 million, despite a very, very mixed bag of reviews. I think it's only lately that people have kind of come around and said, "Hey, this is actually a pretty solid film." Right. All the acting is really good. All the girls, Katie, Vicky, Liz, Jeannie, Diane, Morgan, and Stevie, are all wonderful. They're all really good actors. And I looked on IMDb, and I don't think any of them did much before or much after. I mean, it was like, some of them were on like Jake and the Fat Man and maybe Charlie's Angels and this and that, but it was not a very robust and lengthy film career for Katie, Vicky, Liz, Jeannie, Diane, Morgan, and Stevie.
We got to make you one of those shirts, like they have football teams and stuff.
Yes. Liz.
Contact Psychographic. Gwen, if you're listening.
Yes.
House on Sorority Row. Yeah, that would be fun. That shirt would be funny because people would be like, what the hell is that?
If anybody knew that, they're like, okay, best friends forever now.
They could, if I wore that shirt and you saw me on the street and you knew what it was, I would give you my seat on this podcast.
Right.
You could have my spot. I would gladly give it up. All right, Eric, what do you got for your number 3?
Okay. So when people talk about the great horror movies that involve school, this is it. It's a star-packed. Everybody, the first one that drops out of their mouths, The Faculty. Actually, I'm going to save that. Actually, I'm going to go Carrie. So
right
there we are. So
did you watch it?
I finally watched Carrie.
Awesome.
Did it?
Yeah.
And we have
Eric's all grown up. You've graduated, Eric. It's full back to
throw me a party.
Episode.
Yes, and we have a crossover because I picked Carrie too.
Okay, well, so what we can do is we can talk about we can share this one, and
Yes,
I got plenty. I got backup, but
All right.
this was,
of course,
I
you
figured
do.
I should, since this I've been ragged on this ad nauseum for the past 30 or 40 episodes or 70 episodes.
No pun intended.
Yeah. I think this, in seeing it now, it's a masterpiece. Mm-hmm. It is a fantastic movie. I think this is it's every bit of a teenage drama, and with a horror movie built into it. It doesn't get to the horror for a very long time. I think it's suggestive of some kind of spooky stuff, but it's not. It doesn't go full tilt horror until the third act.
Yeah. But I mean, you get a lot of buildup, and like with Margaret, like throwing her in the closet.
Absolutely. I mean, the way I felt about this was that Brian De Palma was building this tower of teacups,
mm-hmm.
and it was this janky, jingling, ready to collapse at any moment kind of a setup, and. It's the artistic craft of De Palma and King and Sissy Spacek and John Travolta and Piper Laurie and Nancy Allen, and it's got this fantastic cast.
Betty Buckley.
Betty Buckley. I didn't. Yeah. Which one was Betty?
Betty Buckley's she's like the PE coach.
Oh no! Yes.
Yeah.
She was awesome.
Yeah, and she plays a major
role. And the guy
role.
who played the Great American Hero, right?
Yeah, William Katt.
Yeah.
And here's the big surprise for me.
And PJ Souls, come on.
And PJ Souls starting her reputation of being this bitchy chick who's going to get off in horror movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, PJ. I thought going into this movie, my suspicion was that everybody was going to be in on the joke.
Right.
And they're
not.
And they're not. And I think that I think particularly
that is a spoiler for those of you that have not seen Carrie.
And at this point,
everybody's seen Carrie now.
Carrie was the only one left.
Yeah. Last one standing right here. But I thought William Katt was fantastic. Was very endearing.
Oh my gosh, was he ever?
And because my suspicion was that he's
Amy Irving.
Amy Irving was great.
Mm-hmm.
Also, and Travolta and Nancy Allen were dastardly. And boy, you wanted to see him get it. I kind of wanted to see him get it even worse than they got it. Spoiler alert. But the absolute knockout performance, Sissy Spacek becomes a movie star in this movie, and has forever since been a movie star.
Yeah,
and just the kind of the emotional role that she puts you through from the beaming joy of getting up on the stage to the panic of being of maybe not William Katt not showing up to pick her up for the date.
Right.
Her battles with her mom. It was all just this tension and release until it just goes kablooey and she goes wild-eyed, covered in blood, and starts, wrecking house at the gym. It was fantastic.
Yep.
And so it's like, okay, yeah, I waited a long time. This is, but it is the touchstone bullying movie. Also.
Oh, sure.
I don't know. I think that there have been lots of bullying movies since,
right?
But they figured out that this formula works.
Oh, yeah.
And that it is...
Teenage girls are the worst.
Yeah. Oh, God. And
they are the worst.
Yeah, Nancy Allen's character, you could see how her manipulation and manipulating the boys to do her bidding.
Right. And manipulating the other girls, too, because she manipulates PJ Souls.
Well, I think PJ was.
Yeah,
she was a sycophant. I mean, it's like there's always a buddy like this in these kinds of movies, but this set the template for it. And it's a recognizable. I can't think of another movie that takes this school bullying thing before Carrie. Can you peg one that really?
There might have been other ones, but certainly not as eloquently put together.
Yeah.
You know that the both Piper Laurie and Sissy Spacek were nominated for the Academy Awards that year, and for Best Actress and Best Supporting Actress. They both lost to actresses in what movie?
This was 70. This was a 76 movie. So 77. So was Annie Hall? Was Diane Keaton?
No, it was Network.
Oh, okay.
Holly Hunter.
No, that would have been
that was the 80s. Yeah. Faye Dunaway.
Oh,
yeah.
Right. Yeah, It's like I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore.
Yes,
that's
and that was Carrie too.
Yes, indeed. So, if there are any more holdouts out there on Carrie, I urge you to go check it out. It's like
stop being a holdout.
Yeah, I think I was just being a holdout just to be stubborn and stupid. To be honest, just because, and it became a bit of a good joke, but I think I just realized that this was the time to break out the CD that or DVD that Mike gave me. So thank you for that, and we can move on to.
Of course.
The Birds was one that I hadn't seen that I've seen since.
That's right.
The original Dracula was one that I hadn't seen that I've seen since.
Right.
I'm trying to remember the fourth movie that.
Films that we were ashamed we haven't seen
yet. We might have to get back to that.
We might have to
and reset it
because I don't know that I've gone back and looked at any of the ones that
No, because you picked all recent movies and you just sort of sat on it and the thing is that you didn't. I know what's going to happen with Liz. Liz has.
I can't talk about Titanic on a horror movie podcast.
No. I think it's any movie before 1970.
Yeah,
and Liz or
I've seen some. I just pre
1960s. You haven't seen the classics. That's that's what we got to work on Liz for. It's like yeah.
The ones I've seen just don't. I don't know. I need something shiny and new. Not even shiny and new. I need 80s and 90s. Mostly 90s is my comfort zone. So,
yeah.
Maybe it's when we went to school. That's what they always say. Like your taste in music are the same as when you were like a sophomore in high school. That will be whatever you're into.
God
then
help
will
me
be
if that was the case.
What you're mostly into. And I don't know if it's true, but it's just nostalgia. I think.
Yeah.
I think I'd be listening to Crocus and Scorpions and Saxon and a bunch of really not good music. So.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with full metal.
No, the other getting back to the subject at hand.
Right.
That was a school pun.
I missed that one.
Yes.
Right over.
Sorry.
I'm
sorry.
I needed to do my homework. Puns. Okay.
The other thing I thought was really interesting about Carrie was that the Stephen King apparently was doing a Q&A recently within the last couple of years, and somebody had asked the question about the putting together this, the book and the rights to the book and everything. Apparently, he was paid $2,500.
That's it.
Paid off in the end.
And he was 26 years old at the time, and he said, "Oh man, this is awesome! I just got $2,500." Little did he know, its $1.8 million budget would come to gross close to $40 million over the years. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And I guess the other thing that really surprised me, and I wasn't ready for it,
right?
Believe it or not. I mean, I was ready for the goofy shocker ending, which is now kind of cliched. I was ready for the burning down the house moment,
right?
But I was not ready for the opening menstruation scene.
Oh yeah, that was crazy.
Really?
I believe it or
Plug
not,
it up. You never heard that?
No, I was like, at a certain point, it's like I think I know what might happen here, but I didn't know. I wasn't aware of that scene.
That scene was heavy duty. And the other one, shortly thereafter, when she locks her in the closet and she kind of Piper Laurie whisks around with that long cloak in that super dramatic fashion. And you just see a quick glimpse of Carrie locked in the closet and the door slams as she's, muttering all this, religious nincompoopery. Yeah.
Piper Laurie was absolutely awful in the best way.
God, was she ever?
I almost had to fast forward the scene where she shows up as the door-to-door kind of like, have you heard the word of God?
That was so painful.
Oh, man. Because that's just like, get away from me.
And the woman's like, here's $5. Just get the hell out of my house.
So,
Carrie.
Yay! All right.
Carrie.
Eric saw Carrie.
Liz, you're number 2.
We should just stop the podcast.
Okay. My number 2 is a 2011 film directed by Mary Herron, who also directed American Psycho, and it's called The Moth Diaries.
Right.
It is based on a book by Rachel Klein, and it also takes place in an all-girls boarding school. And this is a story. It's a gothic vampire movie, and it's the story of Becca and Lucy. And it's the first day back at school. They've missed each other, especially Becca. She's kind of a little bit possessive of her best friend, Lucy. But, you know, Lucy's her friend and they have the rooms next to each other and everything. But then a new girl comes to school and her name is Ernessa, and she's tall and exotic and
up to no good.
Kind of looks a little bit old fashioned. And of course, yeah, she's no good. So Becca's been at this school because her father was a famous poet and he had committed suicide. And Ernessa, her father, also committed suicide. So she thinks that they have something in common. But Becca thinks that Ernessa is just trying to steal Lucy away from her, and they're studying Gothic literature in their class, which has a male teacher played by Scott Speedman. So, of course, when you have a handsome guy in a all-girls boarding school and these are 16-year-old girls, you know what a little bit of that storyline is going to be. But she becomes convinced, Becca, after reading and studying vampiric myths, that Ernessa is a vampire coming to suck the life out of Lucy and take her away from Becca. So their school also used to be a hotel. So there's all sorts of like creepy stuff in the hallway. And, you know, then of course you have a basement with like old stuff from the hotel. So it's a really cool Gothic vampire story. It's really low key. Not a lot of blood, probably a lowercase horror, more of an atmospheric horror, but it's a beautiful film and the book's great too, if you want to read the book. And not really much else to say about 2011's The Moth Diaries because I don't want to give anything away.
Does Ernessa get hers in the end? Do we know that?
Of course.
Oh, well, I just want to make sure because like with a name like Ernessa,
Ernessa. Ernessa may or may not be from the same time frame as Becca and Lucy, so it could be a fashion name.
Interesting. And what year was like what period are we dealing with? I know the film is from 2011, but is it a contemporary
film? They have
film?
phones.
Oh, okay.
They have cell phones, so yeah, around the same time that the movie was released.
They have Blackberries. 2011.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest.
They were past the beeper, past the BlackBerry. They were on a smartphone. So,
yeah, I haven't seen this. It's one that it creeps up on you all the time. Like every time you're
is it on?
It's
Amazon?
Available if you have the IFC app channel, which actually has a ton of really good movies because I, did the old 7-day trial to get this without renting it on Amazon. But other than that, you can rent it on Amazon or get it on DVD.
Right. All right. So since Eric chose Carrie, I'm down to my last film, which is that is not a joke. The 2011, I upped my game a little bit. I read about this film and it sounded super duper interesting, but then I saw that it featured Dane Cook and I was like, yeah, I don't know about this. And I gave it a go and I really liked it. This is a 2011 film called Detention.
Oh, God, never heard of this.
Never even heard of it.
Which is 110% set in high school. Like the whole film is practically in a high school. It's an American film. It's a satirical horror film directed by a guy named Joseph Kahn. And it premiered in 2011 at South by Southwest. Of course, it features amongst a bunch of no-name teen actors. It also features Dane Cook as the principal. And
I find that hard to buy. But
so
okay.
so here's the thing. Before I even tell you what it's about, Joseph Kahn, I looked him up, the guy who directed it. And prior to this, he had done, and I'm not joking, 183 music videos. So you can kind of see where the film is going just based on that provenance alone. Okay. He has this real interesting penchant for sort of taking meta and turning meta in on top of meta with more meta. And he uses incredible amounts throughout the whole film, incredible amounts of gimmickry, really fascinating, like little sleights of hand, super fast edits, super fast comedic timing, and then lots and lots and lots of he uses lots of both visual cues as well as text cues. So it's like you're seeing something on the screen and he's pointing it out to you, and there'll be like a text block above whatever that thing is telling you what it is. And at one point in the film, well, I'll tell you what the film is about. It's basically there's a serial killer known as Cinderella, which is on the loose and killing the students of Grizzly Lake High School. And Cinderella is also a movie that the kids are fascinated by. And of course, Cinderella somehow manifests him or herself. I won't spoil that.
Right.
Him or herself to terrorize the children of Grizzly Lake High. And the thing that's really interesting about the film is that they play a lot with time, and there is a time travel element to the film, but it's so it's like the kids are slowly sussing out who the serial killer is as they're moving back and forth in time. But the interesting thing that he does is, the director does, Joseph Kahn does, is he calibrates all of those time periods to very, very specific like high school fashion and high school like music. But
this sounds totally bizarre, and I am intrigued.
It's like a pop-up video.
It
kind
is
of gone awry.
It is, and Peter Hartlaub from the San Francisco Chronicle, he hated the film. He said there will be young moviegoers who proclaim this film genius and more stodgy audience members who will find it torturous. If you're not tweeting and texting a combined 50 times or more a day, you're probably in the latter camp. I think he's totally right about that. And I think that's also the thing that kind of makes it really interesting is the flip-flop back and forth of all of these different concepts and all of these interesting edits and interesting visual cues. All right, yeah. So, Detention is, I think, a really, really fun film. What was the mashup that you had referenced, Liz? Do you recall what that was with regard to Detention?
It said, oh shoot. Oh man.
No, that's okay.
Close the tab.
No,
hang on, I'm going.
Detention. Yes, while you're looking that up, I mean, Detention really is this kind of insane, manic mishmash of all sorts of pop culture references.
Let's see. So Kevin Summerfield from Flasher Studios gave it a glowing review, saying the film is Scream meets Scott Pilgrim with a dash or two of Kaboom, and it makes for one wild cocktail.
It is.
So I think that sounds great.
Wild cocktail.
It is a wild cocktail. There's nothing particularly scary about the film as much as it is. There's a little bit of gore, and it's really fun, and it's kind of funny. There's nothing particularly scary about the film, although Cinderella is, I could see actually, again, taking meta out of meta and turning meta inside of meta. I could see somebody actually taking the Cinderella character and making it into its own film. But yeah, I would totally recommend people go see Detention from 2011, if nothing else, just to kind of take in something that's pretty different. I can't say that I've actually ever quite seen a film like this.
So, and what pointed you to this movie? This is one that I'm
a little bit of internet research, looking up films that had school-related themes, and this one popped up there, and I thought, well, I'll give this a go. I've never even heard of it. There is another Detention film, so be careful which one you look for. Look for the Dane Cook Detention when you go out and look for Detention. If you go to your local video store, say, I want the Dane Cook Detention, not the other Detention.
Or the Detention with PETA in it. Josh Hutcherson, I think, is the probably the most
The
known
kid from the
actor.
Hunger Games.
Yes. All right, that is my last film of the night.
Mike is out.
I'm out, tapped out.
So I am doing the flip side of Carrie.
Ooh.
And so this is not.
What is the fly? Now I'm curious.
I know.
This is not a good movie.
This is
Okay.
this is a film Eric's seen 100 times.
No, I've seen it once. But thematically, I found it an interesting. After having completed watching it as part of the binge for our podcast, I saw it and went, huh. This one is a movie that took all of the Carrie idea, or a number of Carrie's ideas, and didn't do it well. And it was interesting to compare them side by side. So I think if you're doing a back to back, this is the Caroline Munro picture from 1987 called Slaughter High.
Oh, wow.
And it may be the most generic horror movie ever.
Eric, deep dive.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think there's a fine line.
This is not normally where you go.
No, this is, and I was kind of wondering if you might have picked this one out because there's also some other ones like Return to Horror High, which is George Clooney's very first movie.
Right.
Where he's the first guy to get offed. Not a good movie.
Right.
But I think Slaughter High, is.
Wait, did you watch Return to Horror High?
Yeah.
Did you?
It wasn't very good. And then you got Prom Night and you got,
which is pretty good.
But there's, this is in that same ballpark where
Yeah.
we're talking about 80s slasher
High school. Yep.
Slaughter High is it is about a bullying sequence that goes bad.
Right.
And
as they all are.
there's a fine line, or maybe a real wide line between how a bullying story can break into being Carrie or Slaughter High.
Right.
This is hugely derivative. It's crude and it's clumsy, but I can also admit that it's entertaining. Entertaining because you get all the cliches. It brings you every cliche. But let me give you the summary first. This is Marty, an actor named Simon Scudamore. He's the prototype nerd loser, okay? He is a chemistry geek who gets lured into the girls' locker room by the promise of sex from the seductive Carol, who's Caroline Munro. And for those of you you should know Caroline Munro. She's an exploitation queen from the 70s and 80s.
Right.
She did Maniac. She was a Bond girl. She did Star Crash. She's striking British actress. She's probably 32, playing a high school kid, right?
Sissy Spacek was 25 when she was supposed to be playing a 17-year-old.
Well, and I think they had to be because that oopening shower sequence, I don't think you could have anybody under 18 in that shower sequence. But Sissy Spacek looked like she was 17.
That's true.
Caroline Munro looks like she's 30.
That's true.
And so does everybody else in this movie. But she lures Marty into the girls' locker room, and he's like, I'm a sex machine. It's like, just wait out. But he's a total loser. You can tell he's got the sweater, he's got the glasses on sideways, his hair's all messed up. And all of there's like a group of 10 other kids sneaks in to film because it's April Fool's Day, which also happens to be Marty's birthday.
Right.
Ironically enough.
Of course.
And he ends up getting naked. He comes out of the shower and they go, April Fools. And then a couple of the jocks pick him upside down and give him swirlies in the toilet. And,
he probably had it coming.
And
let's be honest.
It's a band of totally despicable bullies.
Sure.
But it doesn't help. Whereas with Carrie, Sissy Spacek is a complicated character.
Oh yeah.
Super sympathetic. You can understand where she's coming from. You feel you want her to win. You really want her to win. Marty is a guy who's like, dude, you had it coming.
Right.
But he's also, it's like, but nobody deserves to get swirlies when you're naked in the girls' locker room. It's just,
except for Marty.
And so what's another trope that you see in a lot of these movies? Who's the enforcer at the high school?
The PE teacher.
Yes. So the PE teacher comes in and goes, what are you guys doing? Okay, detention for all of you. Sound familiar?
Yes.
Yes. Also happened in Carrie.
Yes.
Also happens in the faculty.
And
these are things.
And it also happens in the film Detention.
So it's like the gym coach is. It's like, why don't this batch of kids get expelled for doing this kind of a thing?
Right.
And then they do a lot of other shenanigans so he actually recovers fairly quickly because he tries to play it cool. It's like, oh no, I'm in on the joke. And then he goes to the chemistry lab. And the pranks continue. Some of the kids sneak out of detention, and they cause they give him
the pranks continue
against poor Marty.
Right?
They give Marty some what they call homegrown rolled weed, right? And they go, here, smoke this. And so of course he can't resist because he wants to be cool.
Sure.
It messes him up. He ends up causing an explosion in the chemistry lab, and he gets hauled out on a stretcher
because it was laced with PCP.
Yeah, it was whatever was in the weed. It was bad news. None of these kids suffer any consequences from it.
Don't do angel dust.
And here's the other thing: is that all of the kids in the locker room look like they're in their 30s. And here's the reason why: is that
because they really were.
They're in their 30s.
They were, and then they flash forward 10 years for a class reunion.
Right.
And it's these same 10 kids, and they all get the same invitation to come back to the high school, which is now derelict.
Oh.
And
who never left the high school and has been living in the basement the whole time?
Well, Marty got hauled off because he was covered in chemical burns and third-degree burns all over his body, right? They never, it's like, and then in the 10 years intervening, they just jump forward. You can sort of, this is coming down like a locomotive down the predictability track. Marty's gonna take it out on these guys.
Right.
So it features all the full roster of the most cliched tropes around, including the car won't start, the black guy gets killed first, killed while having sex, jocks picking on geeks, endless running down looping corridors, taking a bath during a killing spree, which is totally inexplicable. There's an abandoned. The school has been shut down for 5 years.
Right.
And one of the guys kind of explodes because he drinks a bad beer that he's apparently been spiked with chemicals because Marty's a chemical whiz, and so this guy just blows up, and one girl gets covered with
this is at the high school reunion.
At the reunion, yeah. So he's killing off all of his antagonists.
Right.
And one of the girls, as opposed to trying to get out of the building, decides that she's going to try and take a bath to wash the blood off. And
of course.
And he has managed to get the plumbing system to run hydrochloric acid.
Oh my God.
So that's ridiculous. Multiple times splitting up the group. There's a moment where they're trying to bust out of the school, and they find an old riding lawnmower, and they're going to try and bust down the garage door with a riding lawnmower. Which, if you've ever ridden a riding lawnmower, you realize they can only about 5 miles an hour. It's not going to do anything. But of course, the guy's underneath the riding lawnmower trying to fix it, and he gets it from the riding lawnmower.
Of course, he does.
I think that the director and the editors ran out of film, that they were trying to pad the film to extend it.
Right.
Because there were multiple sequences where you end up in the same location. It's like the girls' locker room shows up 4 or 5 times in the movie.
Right.
And it's like, was this take 1, take 2, and take 3? And they used that footage just to create more story.
Right.
It was really, it was a weird.
But you liked it.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, when you break it down, just because you're counting the tropes, that was fun.
Sure.
And they are stock characters from the 1980s.
It is not on AFI's greatest films of all time.
No, but it might be on. It might be on the Scariest Things top 9 of.
It absolutely will
horror
be
high school movies.
Yeah, horror high school.
The interesting thing though about Simon Scudmore was that he killed himself 2 years before the film actually came out.
Oh, really?
And I'm not telling a ghost story either. Yeah, no, he committed suicide, drug overdose.
Cursed movie.
In 1984, and the film didn't come out until 1986.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Wow.
I just looked up Simon Scudmore, and I was like, what? He's dead? Oh, my God. He killed himself before the film even came out.
This movie automatically vaults itself right alongside The Omen and Poltergeist.
Yes,
for cursed horror movies.
Cursed horror films. Yeah, we might have to get to that at a later date.
So it is
Simon Scudmore, rest in peace.
It's stupid STOOPID stupid movie, but it is for generic slasher. I mean, I think the fun of it is it is so generic that you can sort of that it's a drinking game kind of a movie. Anytime you see a recognizable trope, take a drink.
And it was the only film he ever did.
Simon Scudamore?
Yeah. What a tragic tale.
It isn't. I mean, he was Yeah, if you watch it, I mean, you put an awkward kid and put him into full frontal nudity, and then you tip him upside down and flush his head in a toilet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that might have messed him up a little. So sorry, Simon.
Yeah.
I hope you didn't kill yourself because the
of
movie
your participation
was so
in Slaughter High.
Yeah. Anyhow, so Slaughter High, 1987.
There you go.
Originally, apparently, and Mike doing the deep dive.
Yes.
To find out that it was a 1983 movie.
Yeah.
It looks like a 1983 movie.
Yeah. Well, it was shot then, but I don't know if they delayed the release because of his suicide or what. But yeah.
Yeah, they probably they kept it on the down low, and I'm sure that it's like, we're not going to promote this movie much.
Right.
So anyhow, there you go.
All right, Liz, you got anything else? What do you got?
I got one more.
All right, lay it on us.
It's not a great movie, but it's super fun.
Private School for
and
Girls again?
It's new.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
It is, or new, 2018. So it's streaming now. And it is directed by Crispin Mills, and it is called Slaughterhouse Rules with a Z. So you know it's going to be awesome.
Slaughter back to back.
Yeah, this is Simon Pegg is in this.
Yes.
Oh,
so this
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Michael Sheen, Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, Asa Butterfield, and Finn Cole. So
good cast.
It's British. A lot of British actors and actresses that you'll probably recognize from other things. So this takes place this one's a co-ed boarding school. They call it a public school, but they're all in uniforms, and it's like, I think it's the American version of a private school. I don't know. In Britain, it's called a public school. So, and it's called the Slaughterhouse Academy because there was a town named Slaughter, and this was a guy who freed the town from these like creatures. So he was given this manor house, slaughterhouse.
But wait, Simon.
Motto of the school is through slaughter, immortality, but it's in Latin, but I can't speak Latin.
Nice.
And so Michael Sheen plays like the headmaster. They call him the Bat because he wears these like robes and always lifts his arms up and kind of flaps them around, and the billowish cape. So it's funny. And they're all split into different houses. Of course, there's the girls group. There's Sparta, which is the group of kind of like weirdos, stoners, losers, gamers, D&D players, all that kind of stuff.
Hey.
And then, like the jock's house. Oh, no, I'd be in that house for sure. Probably. I think it's the Ravenclaw of Slaughterhouse. So the school is running out of money, so they lease out land to a company that's doing fracking. Nick Frost plays a former alumni who is kind of like an eco warrior now, who is preaching against fracking being bad. And he has a point because it has opened up a sinkhole, and there's methane gas leaks, like the lake catches on smoking around the lake. And then it opens kind of like a portal that's been running under the school in these tunnels to these disgusting creatures that kind of look Jabba the Hutty, but with teeth that come out through the sinkhole that was opened up from fracking. So it's kind of rules of fracking.
So it's an eco-terrorism thing, or eco horror.
And it's gross. It's crude. Lots of, just, that was gross, disgusting moments. It's also really funny. It's not very balanced, though. I'd say it's less than 2 hours, but I'd say a good 45 minutes has nothing.
Really?
It's all set up, and there's a lot of characters.
Huh.
So I think we're introducing so many characters. But
what character does Simon Pegg play? He's not a student.
Simon Pegg plays Meredith, who's like he's a professor and kind of like in charge of the Sparta house. So like the house father of the group, like he's there, like counselor. So he is also love struck and missing his girlfriend, who has left to go be a doctor in Africa, and she is played by Margot Robbie, but you only see her like on Skype conversations.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay.
He's like drunk and sad through most of the movie, but the kids are great. It's really funny. I don't know why I didn't really hear more about it. I think I saw a preview and then it kind of disappeared onto the streaming services. We rented it from Amazon. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I don't even think it ever got a release. I saw it at the video store just recently. I think it just came out on DVD. I don't think it ever got I don't even think it got a theater release at all, which is kind
I
of
don't
weird.
think it did either. I don't think it got a theater release.
Considering Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, you'd think, okay, well, it's going to get it'll get some sort of release because I mean they're
and it's
huge.
not terrible. I mean, it's a solid 3-star movie. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a satisfying movie. It's not going to win any awards,
Right.
but it's a good time, and it's a good way to balance out Black Coat's Daughter. So if you want to do a double feature of Black to School, start with Black Coat's Daughter and then end with Slaughterhouse Rule.
Boy, you weren't kidding going from dark to light.
It's ridiculously silly.
Yeah, you really went from dark to light.
Yes.
Black Coat's Daughter is as dark as it gets.
Yeah,
Jiminy
Slaughterhouse
Christmas.
Rules. That I'll have to check that out. That sounds like
pretty
a hoot.
light.
Yeah. All right. Let's get
definitely fun.
let's get to grave digging.
No, because I got a number 3. Just because you're done doesn't mean that I'm done.
Okay, come on now.
You're trying to jump in my my number 1. I'm going to go overseas for this one. And this was, and I don't know if I've talked about it too much, but I know that I've done a review on the site, and it's a Taiwanese movie called Man 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 Monsters. And it's in Chinese it's Guai 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 Wu. But I will stick with the English variant. I'm glad they stuck with they have the alliteration still.
Now you reviewed this, didn't you?
Yeah. So I thought it was this is sort of staying in the theme of bullying.
Right.
This is it's the horror of bullying in many forms as cannibalistic ghouls battle real monsters, a gang of deviant Taiwanese prep school kids. And it's the kid who wants to blend in with the cool kids who are just evil and wicked, and they've gotten him into trouble because they accuse him of stealing the funds for the classroom for their field trip, and even though he didn't do it, but they set him up, and so then they get sent off to do charity work, and the charity work is going to help feed these elderly people in a Hong Kong or in a Taipei slum, and the kids there's a group of 3 wicked boys, a wicked girl, and this poor kid who wants to be cool, but they make him do all this horrible stuff to these poor old folks. They're senile. They're kind of doddering, and so they will do things like they make them do piggyback races and stuff like that.
Is it the kids bullying the old people, or
kids are bullying the old people, and then and they're bullying this kid, and then as an extra feature, in this tenement are a couple of these young girls who are ghouls.
Okay,
and that they prey on the homeless and the elderly.
Okay.
And
they're not just goth kids.
They're bloodsuckers.
Okay.
But they're not quite vampires. They have some vampiric traits. They can't stand sunshine. They're blood
vampires.
drinkers. Yeah. So they're vampirics. They're not quite they're probably possessed, or it's unclear. No, there was a summoning gone wrong.
Okay.
By their parents, and it cursed the kids. So the kid, they are ghouls by curse.
They're half pyres.
Yes, that might be a decent way to put it. But what ends up happening is that as these wicked boys just start to run rampant through this on a class assignment of all things.
Class assignment to go harass old people?
Yeah, because they're just like, you're going to do, as opposed to detention, they get assigned to charity work. But they're completely unsupervised. It's a bunch of nonsense, really. But they encounter the ghouls one night when they're sort of picking on an old man, and, as wicked little boys will do.
Yes.
And they capture one of the vampires or ghouls, and they tie her up, and the other ghoul gets away. And they, all of a sudden you see the reflection of this little girl ghoul and the boy who they say, stick her with this hot iron, or cut her open, do wicked things, and he goes, no, I don't want to. It's like, if you want to be cool, you got to do it. And he ends up falling prey to their direction. and the other ghoul is it's like she's stalking. She's going to turn on these.
Does he
guys.
kill the ghoul?
No, they just keep torturing this poor thing, and they have it tied to a pole, and then they go back to school, and then there's a the teachers.
Wait, you actually have sympathy for the ghoul?
You do.
Really?
You
Okay.
really do. I mean,
Okay.
it's like you're at a certain point. This is one where you're rooting for the monster.
Okay. Okay.
And you start out rooting for the bullied kid, but then the bullied kid just falls for the he's too afraid to say no. They beat him up. I mean,
Right.
they beat him up multiple times in the movie.
Right.
And
And does he ever get the clue?
well,
Or is that
by the end,
does that spoil it? You're going to spoil it here.
there's this.
No, don't spoil it.
It's got a
Don't
fairly
spoil it.
apocalyptic ending.
Okay.
This
Mon,
is,
Mon, Mon. And what year was Mon,
This
Mon,
was
Mon,
last year.
Monster? Oh my gosh.
and the
How can you see Mon, Mon, Mon Monsters?
you can it's available on Amazon.
Okay.
And it's dark. Now I'll have to say that if any of you folks are familiar with Hong Kong action comedy type things, the acting here is very arch. It is these kids. They're not great actors. They're a bunch of these attractive. They look like boy band kind of guys.
Right.
Movie. And there's a lot of yelling.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like the super expressive kind of gestures that they do.
Right.
And eventually, there are some other things where they return back to school and the kid thinks I've made it. I'm going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to like me. No, the whole school turns on him, and then it turns into a bloody mess. And there's a moment with a school bus that is unforgettable.
A bloody apocalyptic mess.
A ghoul that gets loose in a school bus seeking revenge, and so apparently
one of the two ghouls or a different ghoul?
the older ghoul who's looking for her sister
Okay.
gets into a bus
And goes bananas.
and for movies that are afraid to take out little kids, this ghoul shreds a bunch of little kids. Taiwan has got a little bit of a different standard about what you can do. So anyhow, that's an under the radar
back to school
film. Yeah.
Yes.
Go check.
I'm gonna
out
have to
Mon
check
Mon
that out
Monsters.
and add that to my list after detention.
It's-
Good
Yeah.
ones, guys.
It's amusing and frustrating because you're rooting for at a certain point. That's when you turn your allegiance from the kid to the vampires.
Okay. All right. What'd you give it?
I give it 3.5 stars.
All right. Well, that's solid.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. All right.
Okay, so
Now let's
we
get
go
to
on
grave
to grave
digging.
digging.
Liz, what do you got for grave digging? You got anything interesting for
I
the
got
week?
nothing.
All right.
I got nothing this week.
I got a quick grave digging item. This sort of follows in with children and schools and school age children. Apparently in Brisbane, Australia, parents are now starting to object to billboards promoting the upcoming film It, which are popping up all over the Brisbane countryside, and they are massive billboards of pictures of Pennywise. And they have asked, the parents in Brisbane have said, enough. My kid can't go to sleep. My kid is up all night.
It worked.
You've got to take these down. So that just popped up on the news. I thought that was really pretty damn funny. Eric, what do you got for grave digging?
Well, this is a fun one that and there's a bit of a Facebook thread that I've had that's been going around. But I
going around on Facebook.
And so those of you who aren't connected to me on Facebook, let me explain to you what I found.
Yes.
There is a little town in eastern Oregon called
Condon, Oregon,
which is in the middle of nowhere. It's in
close to John Day,
which is in the middle of nowhere.
Which is in the middle of nowhere.
Like, what's that close to?
It's close to the closest city or
Bend.
town you might recognize as Bend, but it's in this beautiful kind of rolling hills, and I think it's a wheat community.
Yep.
Now, the reason why I bring this up is that there is a theater for sale with a house attached to it for $110,000.
Eric is starting a Kickstarter
We should
campaign.
just buy it.
Yeah, and so there's been this buzz about, hey, wouldn't this be great for a film festival? And of course, the town's got 700 people in it. But anyways, I just couldn't resist and to take a look at this thing and just fantasize about what it would be like to own your own theater.
Eric is buying a theater in Condon, Oregon. The Kickstarter. What's the Kickstarter
Just get a Kickstarter. I think
We just started a Kickstarter.
Our one of our Patreon contributors, Sharon, was saying, "Hold out! I bet you that this thing will get cheaper because the town it's like 700 people and shrinking."
Right. Right.
And so it's like it's almost a ghost town at this point, which would be so apropos. But I think the other thing is it's close.
I wonder if you get any old film with it, because there's got to be like some closet or some cabinet, or
they still have, you get with the theater you get the film projecting equipment and they left the equipment behind. So
oh my god,
so, yeah,
we got to get after that.
I want it.
I know it's so cool.
Check out scariestthings.com. 1T for our Kickstarter
and as a
Kickstarter campaign
to
buy
we need this
the theater in Condon. It's called the OK Theater, isn't that right?
No, it's the Liberty Theater.
Liberty
and I thought it
Theater.
would be kind of cool to be the Liberty Theater, because it's like all you need is an apostrophe, and it's right. It's got my name in it. And a reminder to folks: if you want to get a podcast of your choice, like Bree,
Yes.
we encourage
Thanks,
you to
Bree.
go to our Patreon site, and for as little as $2.50 a month, which is bus money, you can actually, you can get yourself a dedicated podcast for which you can select a topic
of your choice, and we will go and dig and dig and dig into the annals
like
of
this
crappy
long podcast
horror.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to take us out with a tagline from a film called Final Exam. I think it was 1981. Some may pass the test. God help the rest.
Nice.